What most of us think of anxiety is actually not anxiety. It's the resistance to the anxiety, because the anxiety is just the truth that's bubbling up. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. On today's episode, we're going to dive into anxiety. And my invitation for you during this is to feel into your body and just see if it is true for you. I'm probably going to explain it in a way that you've never heard it before, which is actually going to change your relationship to anxiety. And oftentimes, anxiety is paired with depression. We're going to get into it. So, anxiety is just a bubbling up of truth. That's all it is. It's a bubbling up of truth, whether it's an emotion that you're feeling, whether it's a need that you haven't been expressing, whether it's a change that needs to happen in your life, whether you need to tell somebody something, or you need a massive change. It's just a bubbling up of truth. And so part of this is needing to understand the way in which your body speaks to you. Anxiety is actually your friend. And I know you might not agree with me here, but it actually is an intelligent force that is telling you that, hey, something needs to change in your life. You need to say something. You need to do something different. It's just your body trying to get you to acknowledge the thing. You could say the same for pain. Pain is actually your body's best friends. Symptoms, anything that's coming up for you is literally just the way that your body is speaking to you and telling you that there's something that you're doing that is off, or you need to pay attention to something. And so in our culture, we like to mask things by pushing things down or taking different medications or sex or food or whatever it is to try to get us to not feel the thing. And so this is the classic example of parasitic tension. What happens is that we have tension in our body or resistance, something that is coming up that we're actually not even fully aware of, but it's draining our energy. And so a lot of the times when we feel anxiety, and most of us have a low level of hum of anxiety in our life, our nervous system is just like running in that chronic stress stage. And what happens is that becomes your new baseline. And then you now can't hear the language of what your body is telling you. And so it actually is taking a tremendous amount of energy to shut that anxiety up. Like something's bubbling up and you're like, I don't want to hear it right now. Push it back down. Well, that pushing it back down is tremendously energetically intensive, meaning that requires a lot of energy for you to hold things back. Think about it when like you're around somebody and there's something on your heart or on your chest and you just want to tell them so badly, but you bite your tongue. That clenching of your body is actually taking nervous system energy from you to clench it. We cannot stop something from bubbling up within us without a contraction, without an active process of us trying to push it back down, which means it's an active process, which means it's taking our energy. So anxiety is a bubbling up of truth, something that we need to say. It's a need that we haven't had met. It's a change in our life, career, relationship, whatever it is. And then oftentimes we're pushing it back down because we don't want to hear it right now. And then the act of pushing that back down is draining our energy. And then what happens is if you've been pushing that down for long enough, you start to become depressed, which means that you need a deep rest because you're exhausted from pushing it down. And then we get caught in this ping pong effect back and forth over and over again of something's bubbling up. I have anxiety. I need to make a change. I need to tell somebody something. I need to acknowledge the thing that my heart is telling me. And then I shut it up. And then I've been holding it for so long that then I become so exhausted that I become burnt out. And then I get forced into a deep rest, into a forced timeout, if you will. I don't know about you, but I've been put in many forced timeouts in my life. I've gotten sick, I've gotten injured, I've gotten burnt out. And really, what it is like, I heard Jim Carrey speak about this one time. He says, depression is a forced rest, or it's a deep rest that you have to take because your body is exhausted from holding up the avatar that's no longer true for you anymore. And that hit me. And there's been many times that I've been depressed because I've been expressing myself in the world from a place of that's actually not true for me. And then what happens is, if you spend enough time in that depression, well, something is going to start bubbling up again and saying, hey, you need to do something. You need to change something in your life. You need to tell this person or acknowledge one of your needs. And then you get flung back and forth. And then we get, what happens is then our body starts to become sick, because health is the ability to choose. When your nervous system is regulated, regulation does not mean that you're just calm all the time. It does not mean that you are just a monk on a mountaintop and you're meditative. When your nervous system is regulated, it just means that you have choice. It means that you have the ability to choose. You can turn it on and you can make a change and you can do the thing you need to do, and then you can shut it off and you can rest and relax. So health is the ability to choose. It's the ability to fluctuate and flow between whatever it is that is demanding you. There's a quote that's like, a healthy person can have 1,000 wishes, and a sick person only has one. They only have one, and that's to have the choice to not be sick, right? So anxiety is a bubbling up of truth, and it is your friend. It is actually really trying to help guide you into deeper alignment within your life that might be uncomfortable. And there is no such thing as like a bad experience necessarily. When it comes to this, it's more of a difficult experience. A lot of the times when your life is being realigned more than anything, it is a difficult experience. But it's better to have a little bit of difficulty now and address the thing than go for 10, 20 years, and then you're going to have to deal with the exponential amount of pain that that comes with that. Because one of the things that I've had to learn in my life, probably the most painful lesson that I've had to learn, is minimizing the time between me knowing something, aka a truth is coming up for me, and then actually doing it. Like, minimizing the time between those, because the longer amount of time that you spend, the more exponential the pain comes, the more exponential that you're going to hurt the people around you that are actually affected by it. So minimizing that gap between the bubbling up of that truth and then taking action on it. So let's dive in a little bit deeper. You, my friend, are a tube. You might ask me, Stephen, what do you mean by that? What I mean by that is you are a flow of energy inside of you. You take things in from your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your ears. You're taking in everything here, and then you're releasing it down there. And this is how the energy flow of your body works. We are a tube. We are a cylinder, if you will, and we're taking things in, and we need to release things. When you eat a lot of food and you don't actually release the food, what happens? You get bigger, 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 bigger. Obesity, right? When you are releasing and you're not taking in food, you get smaller, smaller, smaller. So there has to be a balanced intake and release through your system, and that is a healthy system. It can take in and deal with certain stressors, and then it knows how to move it through you. And that's how art is made. Like, a lot of the times the most stressed out people going through really difficult things, have found a way to utilize that stressor as a form of expression That's some of the best music that's been made, the best art that's been made has come from people that there's this bubbling up inside of them, or this internal pressure or external pressure that has now been channeled into a form of expression. How do you turn that truth that's bubbling up from you into an art form? That's the mastery level. But if you understand from a basic biological evolutionary standpoint, is that we as humans are animals first. We have evolved. We have an instinctual part of ourselves, our reptilian brain. If you're familiar with the triune brain, we have basically 3 brains inside of us. I like to call it the head, the heart, and the gut. And why this is important is because we're animals first. So we have animal instincts that happen first. When we're attacked or we're dealing with something, we have an instinctual response to fight, flight, freeze, to move our body, to shake, to do whatever the animalistic thing that our body needed to do in this moment of stressor. Then comes our limbic brain, or our mammalian brain, which is our emotional aspect of ourselves. Then we start to feel emotions within us, which emotions are like the connective tissue of life. They push people away and they also pull people in. It's like love, hate, this push and pull, this magnetism aspect of humanity. And they're the patterns that we have inside of us that you didn't have to learn. They were passed down to you. You didn't have to learn emotions. Were already inside of you, because they've taken thousands and thousands of years to cultivate for our social survival, the pushing and pulling of our community, our tribe. And then we have our neocortex, which is our head, which is the storyteller in our mind, right? And so when we're feeling anxiety, we don't think about the physical process of it. We don't think about the emotional process. Most of the time, the anxiety comes through in the story in our head, in the overwhelm, and we're not able to we're not able to think clearly. There's all these troublesome thoughts, and the mind is taking us through loops and tunnels. And it's saying, if I do this, then this will happen. And then these people will think that of me. And then these are the consequences. And it's going to take you through all of these loops and tunnels, which most people, probably the number one epidemic in our world, is that most people are identified with just the stories that are playing in your head and don't realize that the thoughts that you're thinking are based on the state of your antenna. And your antenna is your body, your nervous system. It is your nervous system is the electrical system of your body, and the state of it, if you're in a state of fear, fight, or flight, if you're in a state of unprocessed truth, unprocessed emotion, well, then if you're in that contracted state, guess what? You're going to be picking up on contracted ideas. And so anxiety is actually just blocked life force. It's this blocked bubbling up of something that needs to be expressed, needs to be moved through you, needs to be looked at, and wants to be honored. I said that anxiety is a truth that's just bubbling up in you. And it could be something that you're putting off when it comes to your body. Could be something, emotion that you're feeling that you've just been pushing down for so long, that is now affecting the thoughts and the stories that are coming up in your mind. So when we have this bubbling up in our body, that our body needs to do something, we're in this contracted state, we're in fight, flight, freeze, or we have emotions that are energy in motion that just want to move through us. When we've been holding those back for so long, the body gets incredibly tired, and then we get flung into depression. And then from that place, then we get put in that forced timeout. And then guess what? You're going to get flung to the other side because you're going to spend a lot of time there. And then eventually that truth is going to come back stronger and stronger the next time, which people call these panic attacks or anxiety attacks. So what do we actually do? If anxiety is just a bubbling up of truth, it is a an emotion or a physical movement or a massive change or a decision that you need to make in your life. Well, how do we honor that? What most of us think of anxiety is actually not anxiety. It's the resistance to the anxiety. Because the anxiety is just the truth that's bubbling up. If you actually let the truth just bubble up inside of you, let yourself feel the emotion, which is incredibly hard because we live in a culture that has taught us to shove it down, push it down, suck it up, shut up, sit down. What you say doesn't matter. And then at that point, it's like, cool, well, I'm just going to suppress all of those parts of myself because that's what we've been taught to do. So most of our issues are not your fault, but it is your responsibility to remember the intelligence of your body. So I hope this is making sense to you, and I hope this is making sensation in your body. Let me know in the comments if this is resonating with you, and if you've experienced this before. So from there, the anxiety is actually the resistance to the truth. The anxiety is the resistance to the bubbling up. And so it might be the scariest thing to face the truth of, I don't want to be with this person anymore, or I actually don't want to work this job anymore, or I don't want to feel the pain of my reality that's going to shift and change, because your nervous system is wired for a familiar pain. A lot of us, we seek out, and I've talked about this in other podcasts, but we seek out familiar pain versus newness inside of us because we're wired that way. So I'll give you another example of how this is sort of the modern epidemic of how we push down truth, how we push down pain. So if I was working in some sort of job that I hated, say I was I was a plumber, which a lot of people call me a human plumber. I help people move through a lot of the emotional process to clear so that they can become clear mentally and live up to their potential. But say I was an actual plumber and I was dealing with shit and all the different things, all the different things that we have to deal with, or a plumber would have to deal with. And I hated my job. Well, guess what? Once I get off work, I'm probably going to want something to help me push down that truth of me hating my job. So I'm going to turn to alcohol, or I'm going to turn to drugs, or I'm going to turn to different things that's going to support me in the suppression, because it takes a lot of energy to push those things down. So much energy that we need external help to do so. And then from there, it's going to keep me in the same job because I'm not actually honoring the bubbling up of the truth of the pain of, I don't like my reality. And so the cycle continues, as I'm going to stay in that job because I haven't been dealing with the bubbling up of truth, or I'm going to stay in that relationship that's not meant for me because I haven't dealt with the bubbling up of truth. And then 10, 20 years is going to go by, and then I'm going to experience a lot more pain later on down the road because of the amount of time that's gone between. And so this requires you to be responsible. Now, I hated that term for so long in my life, but to me, spirituality just means responsibility. Because to say that you are responsible, it means it's actually the most spiritual state, because it means that you are the one responsible for creating your reality. That you are not just reactive to things, that you're not just going through the motions, but you have the ability to respond to life, which means that you're responsible for your reality. Meaning that if there's a truth or a need that's bubbling up inside of you, it's your responsibility to take care of it. And so if you don't like the way that your life is going, I guarantee you're probably experiencing anxiety and or depression, or you're caught in this ping pong between the two until you actually work through the resistance of whatever the truth that's coming up. And I promise you, it will It might be painful in the beginning, but once you get realigned, your life will be 10 times better. Your relationships will be 10 times better. Your body and your energy levels will start to come back because you're not fighting this internal war within yourself. It's really hard to create things and live your best if you have an internal war that's going on inside of you. So the last thing I want to cover on this episode is let's talk about needs and wants, desires. So this anxiety is a bubbling up of truth, and maybe it's actually a need that you actually haven't been paying attention to, or it's a boundary. Boundaries are basically a need that needs to be expressed because someone has crossed from what a yes is to your no. And so there's a need inside of you to enforce this boundary, or there's a need inside of you or a want inside of you that is actually not, it's not selfish. I did an episode on rewiring selfishness. If you haven't listened to that one, that's an incredible one that talks about this. But your needs and your wants are incredibly important for you to listen to because they're the fuel source. And when they are coming from a clean place and they're not coming from a wounded place inside of you, a lot of us, we're trying to fulfill needs that are coming from a wounded place, right? Like I need alcohol or I need something to numb myself because it's coming from the wound to continue to press down the wound. But when you're coming from actual needs inside of you, I want a new career. I want a new relationship. I want to go down this different path. I'm ready to move. I'm ready to shift gears in my life. The listening to those needs, listening to those wants is incredibly, incredibly important because they become the fuel source for your life. And if you haven't experienced this in your life, I hope that you get to. But when you start to build momentum and you're following your authentic desire and your authentic needs and you're just continuing to honor this bubbling up of truth, it becomes a compass for you in your life, and the snowball effect becomes exponential. And then you start attracting new people. You start attracting opportunities in your life. Your life starts to become exponentially better because you've been paying attention to the truth that's inside of you. And it all started from the intelligence of that little bit of anxiety that's in you. And this is why I said that anxiety is your friend. All of the symptoms, all of the pain, all of the different things that are being expressed inside of your body, they are your friend, and they're telling you that something needs to change. And change is the only thing that is certain in life. So you better get used to it. It might be uncomfortable. There might be discomfort, but it's better to face it and start the redirection and the correction of your life than it is to stay trapped, to stay in the roller coaster of this ping pong between anxiety and depression, which is probably the number one epidemic in our world that so many people are suffering with. And so if there's one thing that you do is pay attention to what your body is trying to tell you. And on this next episode I'm going to guide you to how to start to learn the other ways that your body actually speaks to you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If this resonated within you, reach out to us. Leave us a comment. If you can like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. It would mean so much as we grow this podcast, this little channel. And I cannot wait to hear from you.